Okay, today we are learning Shabbat Daf Pei Gimel. Today's shir is sponsored, actually for this week's shirim are sponsored by by Joy Benatar in memory of Miriam David, Malka Bat Michael Esther Zichronah Lebracha. She would have loved to have studied with a worldwide, non-denominational, non-gender segregated Jewish community. And today's shir specifically is also in honor of Jeff Cohen's 40th birthday. Happy birthday. Okay, with that, we will get started. So we have to review a little bit from yesterday. You can look at the sheet. I made a chart that will help you organize what we did yesterday at the end of the daf. Our topic was avodah zarah, idol. You have an idol. The question is, what type of tumah does it have? So we learned already that really from the Torah law, there's no impurity to avodah zarah. However, the rabbis wanted people to distance themselves from avodah zarah. And therefore, they said that avodah zarah is going to be tamei, because they said anything that is tamei, people generally stay farther away from. The question is, what level of tumah did it have? We saw that it was compared in the verse to nida. We also saw there was a comparison to sheretz. And there's different laws about nida and sheretz. There are two main differences being masa, that a nida, if she carries something, again, without coming in physical contact with it, but actually moving something, then it has tumah to it, it's impure. And there's this special law of Eben Mesama, which we talked about, a very heavy rock, and if she sits on the rock and there's something underneath it, but the rock isn't touching it, different laws about exactly what Eben Mesama is, but somehow a very heavy rock, which then her effects on whatever might be either above the rock or below the rock that she moves aren't really affected by her movement, and yet we still say that it's going to be tamei. So the question is, and then the other fact is that we have a machloket in Masechet Avodah Zarah, and Rabbi Akiva's opinion appears in our Mishnah, between Rabbi Akiva and the rabbis about whether we treat it like nida, according to Rabbi Akiva, or like a sheretz, according to the rabbis. So the question is, when we say like nida or like sheretz, which elements are we discussing? So according to Rabbah, and if you look at the chart, it's very clear, when it comes to about the issue of masa, everybody agrees that it's matame masa like a nida. Even the rabbis who compare it to sheretz, they weren't talking about masa. That's obviously tamei. The issue, the machloka between them, was about this unique law about Eben Mesama. Then we have Rabbi Elazar, who, in my opinion, reads it the pshat way of reading it, which is that they weren't talking about some unique law about Eben Mesama. They were talking about, is it matame tumat masa or not? And that's the machloket between them. And Eben Mesama, nobody thinks we go so far as to say avodah zarah. That's a unique law by Anida. We're not going to compare the avodah zarah to that. Okay, we were in the middle now of Rabbi Elazar's approach, and now we have some more questions about the opinions according to his reading. But Rabbi Akiva, Lamai Hilchata, we're right at the very top of Pei Gimel now. Lamai Hilchata itkesh lanida, lemasa. According to Rabbi Akiva now, the reason why we're comparing it to nida is specifically to learn the law of masa, because remember, it's not Eben Mesama, it's just the issue of carrying or moving something. If that's the case, why would you compare it to nida, where it's only going to be compared for masa and not for the unique law of Eben Mesama? We would have been better off comparing it luksha lenevela. This is, by the way, a mirror image of yesterday's sugya. We should just say it's like a nevela, because a nevela has tumat masa also. This is a dead animal that died without being shefted properly, carries tumah with it. And what kind of tumah? Also, right, not only maga, by touching, but also masa, which would then be that would be the best way to say avodah zarah is like this, because it's like this 100%. And not like a nida, where it's a little bit like it, but it's like it in masa, but not in Eben Mesama. So the Gemara says, inachinami, and this is the same answer we gave yesterday. You really could have learned it from the Vela. However, they wanted to learn from Nida because they wanted you to learn something additional. What was that? Elama nida eina le'evarim, af avodah zarah eina le'evarim. Just like Nida is not le'evarim, meaning it's not that if you have a limb of a Nida, again, we talked about two different commentaries on this. Do we mean you cut off a limb off her body while she was still alive? It's like an Ever Min Achai. That's not, doesn't carry tumat nida. Or do we mean that the Rambam said, where she puts a finger of hers into a kli or something like that, a part of her body, is it matame? But either which way, however we read it, nida has a unique law that it's eina le'evarim, If you have a part of an avodah zarah, later on we're going to get to this more in detail, what we mean exactly by a part coming off of an avodah zarah, it's also not going to be tameh. So then they say, wait a minute. If you're going to say that avodah zarah is eina levarim, and that's exactly what we mean here. In other words, remember, what are we saying? The reason why they compared it to nida and not to nevela was specifically to teach you that it's not levarim. Well, then we have a clear law here, in which case, he asked the question, does it carry this kind of tumah or doesn't it? And they didn't really answer him. So if he asked this question, and it's totally obvious what the answer is, well, tifshut le'meha, they should have learned it from here, right? Bein l'Rabbanan, bein l'Rabbi Akiva de'ena le'varim. Because according to this, nobody thinks that it would carry tumah of evarim, right? Either you say like the rabbis, which it's like a sheretz, in which case, of course, it's not le'varim, or you learn it from Rabbi Akiva that it's like nida in the sense that it's not le'varim. So either which way, nobody would think it's le'varim. So why would Rav Chama bar Guria ask this question? So the Gemara answers, Rav Chama bar Guria kiraba matneh. You'd have to say that Rav Chama bar Guria, this is all we're trying to understand Rabbi Elazar's position. You'd have to say that Rav Chama bar Guria doesn't hold by Rabbi Elazar at all. And he was asking according to Rabbah. And if we remember yesterday, we said according to Rabbah, who would the question be according to? Ubayala aliba de Rabbi Akiva. And it would only be according to Rabbi Akiva's explanation, because again, what do you have to say? You have to say, well, the rabbi, in Rabbah's explanation, the whole issue is Evan Masama, and then they say, according to the rabbis, it's not metameh like a nida. And then, right, according to this, you would have to say, let me try to just remember, and then the question would be according to Rabbi Akiva, because according to the rabbis, we don't even learn it from nida, so therefore it wouldn't be a question. The whole question is according to Rabbi Akiva, why would we learn it from nida? Why not from nevela? And then they answered, because it's to teach you that it's not metameh ke'evarim. Okay, so then you would have to say that it's all, his question is all according to Rabbi Akiva, because according to the rabbis, it would be obvious. So now they say, okay, so that was their answer there, and we've resolved it. Now we're going to have two questions on Rabbah from Tanaitic sources. The first one is the following. Avodah zarah kesheretz u'mishamsheh kesheretz. Okay, it starts with the meitiveh. Meitiveh is, we're going to bring a question on an Amora from a Tanaitic source. An Amora can't really go against a Tanaitic source, unless, of course, the Amora can explain it somehow according to his interpretation. So it says here, remember, Rabbah says, everyone agrees the Tumah of Avodah Zarah, and you can always refer back to the chart if you can't keep it straight in your head. Everyone says the Tumah of Avodah Zarah is from Nida, meaning from Masa, okay? Specifically from Masa, carrying, it's going to be Tameh like a Nida. Now, according to this Braita, what does it say? Avodah Zarah kesheretz, u'mishamsheh kesheretz. Now, according to Rabbah, the only way that it's like sheretz, when the rabbis say it's like sheretz, they only mean for Evan Masama. But the simple reading of this Braita is that it's like sheretz for masa, meaning there's no tumah masa. There's no tumah if you just carry it without touching it. Rabbi Akiva Omer Avodah Zarah kenida u'mishamsheh kecheretz. Avodah Zarah itself is like nida, only the accessories for Avodah Zarah are like a sheretz. So Bishlama Rabbi Elazar Nicha, we'll just very simply say, right? Either has Tumat Masa, it doesn't have Tumat Masa, that's the Machlok. Ela Rabbah Kashya. But it's not really so difficult according to Rabbah, because Amar Lecha Rabbah, Rabbah could answer, Mi alima mi manitin. Is it any more difficult than our Mishnah? Now our Mishnah is not our Mishnah, it's the Mishnah in Avodah Zarah that we quoted right after our Mishnah on the previous page. De Katani, what did it say there? Eitzav v'avanav v'afarav mitamim kesheretz. Remember, what did it say there? If the wall between your house that functions also as a wall for a house of Avodah Zarah breaks, falls down, and you end up with all these pieces of the wall in your house, so they're mitame like a sheretz. Now, how did Rabbah explain they're mitame like a sheretz? V'ukim namai kesheretz delo mitame be'evin misama. Remember, like they're also, the simple readings seem to match Rabbi Elazar. Is it like sheretz for masa or not? But in the end, Rabbah said, no. everyone agrees it's tamei masa. The machloket here, when they say it's like a sheretz, they mean for this unique law of Even Misama. So hachanami, likewise, you could explain the Braita in the exact same way. Meaning, if you can explain the Mishnah in that way, then obviously you can explain our Braita in that way, which is when it says it's like a sheretz, still omatame be'evan misama. Notice the words masa never appeared, not in the Mishnah, not in the Braita. So they're going to basically say when it says it's like a sheretz, he means for the issue of evan misama, meaning it's not matame evan misama, even though it would be tame masa. Okay, that was easy. That's basically the same way Rabbi explains the Mishnah as the way he's going to explain the Braita. Now we have a source that's a little bit more complicated. Meitive, another question on Rabbi. Nochri v'nochrit, avodah zarah u'mishamshea. We have four things here, really two, which is a non-Jew, male or female. Okay, it's another case where the rabbis said, even though by Torah law they don't carry impurity, we're going to consider every idol worshiper person. Okay, it's really an oved avodah zarah or nochri. Sounds like even a non-Jewish person is going to be considered that they have tumah. Okay, and we're going to see later they carry the tumah of a zav, which is someone who has a discharge, a seminal discharge. Or it's not exactly, it's some discharge, but it's there we're going to say it's actually not a seminal discharge. That's carry. It's a zav who has an unusual discharge from there. Now that tumah is going to apply to every non-Jew, whether or not they had a discharge or not. And the reason is they wanted to keep people away the same way they wanted to keep them away from idol worshippers. They wanted to keep them away. And the concern there, interesting, the Gemara says, it's because they were worried about sodomy. Okay, it even says that children will engage in sodomy with other non-Jewish children. I mentioned this before that in those times, the Romans were very steeped in all this kind of sexual promiscuity. So in light of that, it makes a little bit more sense than just saying all non-Jews are, into those kind of things, which nowadays is clearly not the case. But in those days, with the people the non-Jews that they were with, it was very common. And because of that, they wanted people to stay away from them. And because of that, they said they're going to be tamei. So it's really the same kind of thing as avodah zarah. There's no real tumah to it, but the rabbis said that they're going to be tamei. So now they say, all these three, according to the Braita, are in the same category, which is hein velo hesetan. They are tamei, but they don't have tumat hesed. Now, hesed is the same kind of thing as masa. It means if you move something. For example, one of the ways they say hesed, I push something, that item pushes something else. That second item that got pushed is going to be tamei also, okay? And it could be also masa. So it basically says, no tumat masa. Now here it's going to be more of a problem because it says very clearly that the rabbis say there's no tumat masa. And what did Rabbah say? Rabbah said there is tumat masa, it's just there is no even misama. And it's not going to be so easy to just plug in the words here. Oh, they meant even misama like last time, because last time it didn't say anything about masa, yes or no. This specifically says there's no tumat hesed. Rabbi Akiva Omer, hein vehesetan. Rabbi Akiva says, no, they're tamei and there's tumat masa. Now, or tumat hesed, which is like tumat masa. Later on, we're going to say, what does the word hein mean? Why does it say hein? We'll get back to this. Bishlamala Rabbi Elazar nicha. According to Rabbi Elazar, this is perfect. According to the rabbis, there isn't tumat masa. According to Rabbi Akiva, there is tumat masa. That's exactly what Rabbi Elazar says. Is the machloket. Ela l'Rabba kasha. So Amar l'cha Rabba. Rabba comes along and says, we have a bit of an issue with, you're telling me there's an issue with my interpretation of things in light of this Braita. But even you would agree, even if you don't agree with me, there's a problem inherent in this Braita. And basically, once you have a problem with the Braita, we can say the Braita is what we call mishubeshet. It's a messed up Braita, which happens because people transmitted them orally. They made mistakes, in which case we need to change anyway the words of the Braita. Once we're changing words of the Braita, well, we can change them even more so to match what I want to say. That's going to be his basic approach. So here goes his problem. How could you possibly say that a nochri and a nochri don't have tumat hesed? V'hatanya, doesn't it say in a Braita, Daber al b'nei Israel? Now this is the intro pasuk for the Zav. Now what do we darshan from this pasuk? Notice it says, speak to the Jewish people and tell them the laws about Zav. From here you can derive, b'nei Israel matamim b'ziva ve'ein nochri matamim b'ziva. Right? From here you can learn very simply, Zav only applies to a Jewish person. If a male non-Jewish person has a discharge that would be considered a Zav discharge, he's not going to carry the Tumah of a Zav because it's only a law unique to the Jews. Aval, continues the Braita and says, Gazlu alehen shiyu kezavim l'chol divrehen. But the rabbis instituted that they were going to be considered zavim for all intents and purposes. So therefore, if they're going to be considered a zav, and zav as tumat hesed, which we also call tumat masa, obviously the non-Jew is also going to have that, which means the rabbi's opinion here that the non-Jew has no tumat masa cannot be true. Okay? So we have to change the wording of the Braita. So now we're going to say like this. Everyone's going to have to change the wording of the Braita. So now we're going to see the way the Braita reads according to Rabbah, and we're going to see the way we read the Braita according to Rabbi Elazar. So Ela Rabbah mitaretz l'tameh. He's going to read the Braita like this. And now we're going to have, and you can see the chart, the second chart on the sheet, even though it sounded like from the pshat of the Braita that Nochriv and Nochrit and Avodah Zarah and Misham Shehen were all in the same category, we're now going to see they're not. There's two categories. There's Nochriv and Nochrit, and then there's Avodah Zarah. So the simple pshat said, again, I'll read it again, Nochriv and Nochrit, Avodah Zarah, Misham Sheh, Hein velo HaSeitan. Okay, it said very clearly, they're all the same law. But that can't possibly be the case, so we're going to now make a split. So Rabbah's going to read it like this. Nochriv v'nochrit, hein v'haseitan ve'evan misama shelahen. Okay? They're a problem. Their hesed is a problem. And even evan misama, because they're like a zav for all the laws, and the zav is like the nida, evan misama is a problem. Notice they're adding in evan misama here. Avodah zarah, he v'haseita, avalo evan misama shelah. But the Avodah Zarah is different from the Nochri and the Nochrit, specifically in the Evan Misama issue, because according to Rabbah, that's the issue that the rabbis disagree with Rabbi Akiva about. Rabbi Akiva Omer, Avodah Zarah, he v'haseta ve'evan Misama shela. Now they have to add an Evan Misama because according to Rabbah, there has to be some argument between the rabbis and Rabbi Akiva about this Avodah Zarah. And the only possible place they disagree about, according to Rabbah, was Evan Misama. So he has to add those words into the Braita. And he also has to split between the Nochri and the Nochrit and the Avodah Zarah because the Nochri and the Nochrit are like a zav for everything. In which case, Evan Misama would be Tameh even according to the rabbis. So that's how they make the split. Rabbi Elazar mitaretz l'tameh. According to Rabbi Elazar, this will be the way we read it. Nochri v'nochrit hein v'seitan. Because again, he can't say there's no Tumah Masa by Nochri and Nochrit because it's clear from that Braita that we saw that there is because they're like a zav for everything. So Nochri and Nochrit has Tumah Masa and Hesed. The Evan Misama Shalahen, and even Evan Misama, although that's not really Rabbi Elazar's issue. Avodah Zarah, he velo haseita, right? But Avodah Zarah, according to the rabbis, doesn't have Tumat Hesed. Rabbi Akiva Omer, Avodah Zarah, he v'seita. Rabbi Akiva disagrees and says, no, it does have Tumat Hesed. Okay? And that's how each one would explain that Braita according to their reading. Matkefla Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi says, I don't like any of your explanations. Why? Because my hain, okay, now there's a few different ways of understanding what the problem is, but I'll just explain it according to one interpretation, which is, you basically want to say here, what does hain mean? It means the nochri, or the avodah zarah, is tameh, and also anything, right, if you carry it, or some sort of tumat masa. But it's obvious that they're tameh. You don't need a braita to tell you that. That's the basic law, that avodah zarah carries tumah, or nochri and nochri have tumah. So you don't need the word hain. You could have just, if the whole focus of this Braita, according to both Rabbah and Rabbi Elazar's explanations, is that the focus is there Tumat Masa, is there not Tumat Masa, then the word hain is unnecessary. So comes Rav Ashi and he says, this Braita is actually teaching us obviously something else. Now you'd have to say in the end that it's also teaching us the machloket, and then you'd say within Rav Ashi, you could still read it either according to Rabbah or according to Rabbi Elazar. But according to Rav Ashi, there's something else going on here that each of them kind of ignored. Okay? So it doesn't exactly relate to the machloket Rabbi Elazar. It just says you're missing some basic point in here, which I want you to realize you're missing out on. Which is, he says, El Amar Rav Ashi, Hachi Kamar, Nochri v'nochrit, and now we're getting really off topic. Bein hein shesitu et acherim, ubein acherim shesitu otan tmeim. Okay, another difference between the Nochri and the Nochrit and Avodah Zarah is the following. If a Nochri or Nochrit moved something or moved someone else, they can make that item tameh, okay? Or they can make someone else tameh. So if they pushed something which pushed someone else, they can make that person tameh. Or if achirim esitu otam, if I push something that pushes the Nochri, right? Or I carry the Nochri on a chair, okay? I pick him up in a chair, I'm going to become impure because of tumat masa or hesed. Okay? Now, right, they're using masa and hesed interchangeably here. There are some minor differences, but we're using them interchangeably for our purposes. But avodah zara shesita achirim tehorim, achirim shesita ota tmeim. If I move something that moves the avodah zara, that's tumat masa. I'm going to be tamei. But if the idol itself moves something, now we're going to have to ask, how on earth can an idol move something, right? Isn't that the whole idea, that we don't believe that idols have any power to, like, they're inanimate objects? But let's just assume for a minute that they could move something. If they move something or someone, that item does not become tamei. Okay? The tumah by avodah zarah only goes in one direction with tumat hesed, which is if I move it, but not if it moves me or if it moves something. Okay, so now they're going to say, so that's right. So that's the first. So this is how we read. Let me just start from the top now. Rav Ashi says hachi kamar. Going back a few lines, we're now 8 lines or 7 lines from the bottom. Nochri v'nochri, bein hein shesitu et achirim, bein achirim shesitu otam, both directions to me'im. Avodah zara shesita achirim tehorim, achirim shesitu ota tme'im. But there's a difference. Mishamsheha, now when we get to the mishamshim, remember they seem to be in the same category, even though we talked before, they're not really in the same category. When it comes to items, accessories to the avodah zarah, then we're going to say there's no tumat hesed at all. Bein hein shesitu et achirim, ubein achirim shesitu otan tehorim. Rabbi Akiva Omer, nochri, now here comes Rabbi Akiva to disagree. What does he say? Nochri v'nochrit ve'avodah zarah. Now he's going to put them all in the same category. Bein hein shesitu et achirim, ubein achirim shesitu otam tme'im. When it comes to avodah zarah, it's going to be like the nochri and the nochrit. The hesed goes in both directions. Whether the idol moves something or something moves the idol, all are going to, right? Both directions are going to work to make the item tameh. Bishlama avod mishamsheha, but when it comes to the accessories, bein hein shesitu achirim, ubein achirim shesitu otam torim. Now, when it comes to accessories, we already learned accessories are learned out from sheretz, even according to Rabbi Akiva, and there's no tumat masa or hesed at all. So bishlama, now they're going to say like this. Wait a minute, Rav Ashi, it's a very nice interpretation, but there's something about your interpretation that makes no sense. There's no reality to your situation. Bishlama achirim shesitu otam mishkachala. I understand I could theoretically move something that moves the avodah zarah, but it's an inanimate object. How could it possibly move anything? So Amarami Berei Rav Yiva. I'll show you how. Kiditnan, and I'll prove it from a Mishnah. There's a Mishnah in Zavim that talks about tumat hesed, and it says, if you remember, the zav is metame by sitting on something. Remember? So it's metame if it sits on an object, it's metame that way. It's tumat moshav or midras, we call it. So now, what if it's sitting on a scale? And on the other side, the scale is something else. This is what we call the seesaw tumah, okay? And it moves an item on the scale. Now, it's tumat moshav because it's sitting on something, but it's actually not, the question is it metame, not what it's sitting on, but what it moves when it sits on that seesaw. So, zav bekaf moznaim, this is a mission zavim, ve'ochlin umashkim, right? There's a whole mesechet just about a zav. Ve'ochlin umashkim bekaf shnia, it's not the most recommended parak of Mishnah if you're planning on doing Siyum Mishnayot, right? And you pick one to sign up for. I did it once. It was a little, a little complicated to do. Anyway, zav bekaf moznaim, ochlin umashkim bekaf shnia. So now we have a zav on one side of a scale. We have food and drink on the other side of the scale. Kara hazav, if the zav weighs it down on its side, right? Meaning he causes the food and drink to move, tme'im, then they become tameh. Karu hein, if they caused the scale to move, meaning they were heavier than the zav himself, then tehorim, then the food was not moved by the zav, right? It's actually interesting, right? Because if the zav wasn't on the scale, it would have moved anyway. So therefore, we're basically going to say, in that case, the food is tahor. Okay, so now what do you see? That you could have an inanimate object causing tumat hesed. Now, in this case, it didn't cause tumah because the food and drink isn't what's tameh. It's the question is, did they make something else tameh? But if you put avodah zarah on one side of the scale and you put something else on the other side of the scale and the avodah zarah weighs down, then theoretically we could say it moves the other item and it could theoretically be metame in this way. And that's the machloket. Does it carry this type of tuma? Could it be mesit achirim or could it not be? Do we not say that it's mesit achirim and that we're going to have it do this kind of transfer tuma in this kind of way? Again, Rav Ashi, I'm not going to get into the details, but theoretically one could read Rav Ashi's interpretation just like every time. When we say it's tamei like anida, do we say it's tamei evet misama, or are we talking about masa? And we can basically try to read each one into him, but he just points out that you're missing a whole element of this Braita that he thinks the Braita is talking about both directions of hisitu. The hein v'hasetan means they themselves could be mesit others and others could be mesit them. And that's what the hein is coming to tell you. Now we're going to say, Kiman az lahadatanya. We're going to bring a Braita and say, according to who does this Braita fit? With which opinion does it fit in with? Kol hatzmeot hamisitot tahorot. All types, all categories of tuma, when it comes to hesed, they're tahorim. In other words, they move something, there's no tuma there. Chutz me heseto shel zav. The only time that a zav, and here, this is why zav is a little bit different, because masa, there is masa in other categories, but hesed specifically, when it moves something and that something moves something else, it's only true for a zav. Shelo matzinu lo chaver b'chol haTorah kula. There's no other place where hesed appears other than a zav. So, sounds like, who does this hold like? Well, if it's only a zav, it sounds like it's excluding avodah zarah. Lema delok Rabbi Akiva. Remember, Rabbi Akiva says it has tumat hesed, tumat masa, and therefore we'll say, oh, this must not be like Rabbi Akiva. Diika Rabbi Akiva, ikanami avodah zarah. We already said avodah zarah falls into this category. So now they say, and even if you say masa is a little different from hesed, that Braita we just quoted said hein v'hesetan. So now they say, no, afilu tema Rabbi Akiva. Tanazav v'chol dadamela. What do you mean? First of all, zav doesn't only mean zav. Zav means yoledet, nida, all those are in the same category. And what did we say before? The avodah zarah is learned out from zav. So therefore, avodah zarah is, well, actually learned out from nida, but nida is like zav. So if we're going to learn it from nida, then we're going to learn it, we're going to say only a zav, well, it means only a zav, and a nida, and anything that's learned out from nida, which is going to include avodah zarah. So this doesn't necessarily only match the rabbi's opinion, it could also match Rabbi Akiva's opinion. Now we get back to this question of Rav Chama bar Guria. By Rav Chama bar Guria, avodah zarah yeshna levarim or ina levarim. Now there's going to be an assumption about this question. When he asked this question, he didn't mean if a limb breaks off of an idol. If a limb breaks off of an idol, that's broken, it has no value, it's not avodah zarah anymore because it's useless, right? No one's going to use a broken idol. No one would do that. So therefore, we're not talking about that. What we're talking about is, let's say you had a put together, right, like a Mr. Potato Head or, a kind of pesel that the pieces go in and out easily, okay? Or the question is going to be how easily. But we talked that this is the famous tanur shel chuliot, right? This is the tanur shel achnai, where it was done in parts, right? It was sections that get put together. So if you have a pesel, an idol, that could be put together in parts, and you take the parts up and it's taken apart and you have one of the parts separate, his question is that tamei or not? So now they're going to explain, there's going to be two versions of in what case exactly. There's two ways. I give it a case like Mr. Potato Head or something like that, where it's easy to put back together. But there could be a case where you need a specialist to put it back together. So the question is, in which case is he questioning? So one option is to say like this. If a regular average person could just put it together, for sure he wasn't even asking the question. It's as if it's attached because it can go back in so easily. We view that as part of the idol, and of course it's going to have impurity to it. According, again, this is the first interpretation. What we're talking about is when a regular person can't just stick it back together. It needs a specialist. Kevan, how do we view this now? Here comes the two sides of his question. Okay, there's going to be a funny thing because the letter taf is going to switch with chet. It's either mitavra, which means it's broken, or mechubara, which means it's connected, right? So it's a little teeny line in the letter that changes the whole meaning of the word. Is it itself or the opposite? So do we view this? I'm telling you this because if you're looking in the Gemara, you can almost confuse the two words. Since I can easily just stick this back together, so we view it, since I can't easily put it back together, we view it as if it's broken. Because for my purposes, it's broken until, right, we all know how long it could take in your house sometimes to fix things, right? I have a painting that fell off the wall. It took me 3 weeks till I finally yesterday got around to putting it back in the wall, right? For me, that was kind of broken, even though I really could have done it, right? Then I didn't really need a specialist. But if I need a specialist, all the more so. I'm going to procrastinate until I actually call somebody to come to the house to fix it. It's going to take a really long time. Odilma halo mechasra. Or do we say, no, it's really not missing anything because it can be put back together, even though I need someone to call them, bring them over to my house to get them to do it. Still, it's something that can be fixed. Okay, so that's his question. That's the first reading of his question. Here comes the second reading. Some people explain the question the opposite. Well, it's not exactly the opposite, but it's moving up a level, which is it's the same logic, but we're going to move it to the machlok is going to move to the other case. Which we thought a minute ago was his question. If you need a specialist, that's as if it's broken. If you need some specialist to come fix it, that idol for all intents and purposes right now is broken. Because who knows when you're going to get a specialist, and therefore it's as if it's broken. The question is, since I can put it back together, then we have a question. This is like my picture on the wall. Since I can put it back together, do we view this kiman de mechubar adami? Do we say it's as if it's attached? Because I can easily put it up. Odilma hashtamia kashafa v'sharia. Or do we say, no, well, at this present moment, it's not on the wall, right? At this present moment, that piece is not part of the idol. And therefore, we're not going to view it as mitami. And then we end with a teku, a double teku, because we don't know is what his question is even, and we also don't know what the answer is. Another question. If you have an avodah zarah that's less than a kazayit, what's the status? So before we even try to explain the question, Matkifla Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef comes in with an attack on this question. Usually they attack answers, not questions, but he attacks his question. He says, Lemai, what are you even talking about? If you want to say, is avodah zarah usher? Is it forbidden to worship an idol that's less than the size of a kazayit? Now you might think, what kind of idol will be less than a kazayit? Why would we even be talking about it, right? And maybe that's the question. In other words, is avodah zarah less than a kazayit? Are you obligated? It, like everything, it needs a requisite amount, or maybe it doesn't. Well, Rav Yosef says that can't possibly be your question because it's an obvious answer. Why? Lo yehei el zvuv bal ekron. The Baal of Ekron, that was the avodah zarah of Ekron, was a zvuv, okay, a fly. Now, it was the size of a fly. Now, every avodah zarah had its own way. When we get to Masechet Avodah Zarah, we'll see that one of them was called the Markolis. They would throw rocks at it. That was the way they worshipped it. So the zvuv, with the Baal of Ekron, had a unique way of worshiping it. It was very little, which meant that you didn't go to a house of worship to worship it. But what would you do? You would carry it around in your pocket. And everyone would have their own personal avodah zarah. Titania. Vayasimu al, okay, the whole pasuk is by Gidon. It's in Sefer Shoftim. It says, Vayikasher meit Gidon, Vayeshuvu b'nei Yisrael, Vayiznu achar ba'alim. They started worshiping avodah zarah after Gidon dies. Vayasimu lahem ba'al brit le'elohim. Okay, so now it says Vayasimu lahem. What does it mean? They all took. So what did they take? They say, Zeh zvuv ba'al Ekron. This is the avodah zarah called the zvuv from the Baal of Ekron. Melamed shekol echad be'echad asa dmut yirato. Everyone had their own little fly. Okay, a fly-shaped pesel, idol. Uminicha b'toch kiso. They would put it in their pocket. Kevan shezochra motzi'a mitoch kiso mechabka u'minishka. This is how you worshipped it. Every once in a while, you remember about it. You take it out. You'd hug it and kiss it. Okay, and then they put it back in their pocket. So obviously, Rav Yosef says you can't possibly be asking the questions of avodah zarah forbidden to worship if it's less than a kazayit. Clearly, it's usher. So therefore, the Gemara answers, his question must have been, Ela le'inyan tuma mai. Does it have tuma if it's less than a kazayit? Now, what's the question? Normally, you need a kazayit, although you say normally for what? If you remember, there's different sizes of tuma for different things. Okay, do we say, Kevan de'itkish l'sheretz, since it's like a sheretz, we saw it says shaketz tishaksenu by the Elil, and also by sheretz, it's considered a sheketz. Ma sheretz b'ka'adasha, since a sheretz, if we're going to learn about avodah zarah from sheretz, since a sheretz is tamei, the size of a lentil, maybe also avodah zarah will be tamei, the size of a lentil. O dilma, or do we say, it's also ha'it kash lameit. There's also a verse which connects, which we'll see in one more minute. which connects between avodah zarah and a dead body. Now, a dead body, we know you need a kizayit to be tameh. So, ma meit bekizayit, af avodah zarah bekizayit. So that's his question of Rav Achtavoy. So now we get to the answer. Amar Rav Avya v'item Rabba Bar Ula Tashma. Let's learn it from here. The time it says in the Braita, Avodah zarah pchuta mikizayit ein ba tum'ah kol ikach. Shenemar. They specifically say when we learn this similarity between avodah zarah to mate from the verse, which we're going to read in a minute, it's to teach you this halacha that it has to be a kizayit. If it's less than a kizayit, it doesn't carry impurity. Shenemar vayashlech et hafara al kever b'nei ha'am. Okay, this is a verse by Yoshiyahu. Yoshiyahu, the king at the end of Sefer Melachim, does a whole reformation a little bit before the Churban, a number of years before. He does a reformation. He gets rid of, right, he finds Sefer Torah and he returns to God. We saw about that before a few weeks ago. And he basically wipes out all the avodah zarah in the land. And it says, vayisrof ota b'nachal kidron vayadek la'afar. He destroys all of them. He burns all the idols. He crushes them up into pieces, grinds them up. Vayashlech et hafara al kever b'nei ha'am. And he throws them onto the graves of the people. So here you see a connection between avodah zarah and graves. From there they learn that it has the same laws as tumat meit, and it has to be a kazayit. Okay, there's our answer. So now they say, wait a minute. The Rabbanan, if you notice now, if we take the rabbi's opinion, this is a really good summary line, and they're now going to question the summary. According to the rabbis now, we have three comparisons. Remember, we compared it to sheretz, we compared it to nida, and we compared it to meit. So according to the rabbi's opinion, for what do we have? We're going to learn from each one what? Sheretz, that it's not mitame b'masa, right? There's no tumat masa. That was the rabbi's opinion. L'nida, de'ena le'evarim. From nida we learn that it's not le'evarim. Remember that? You can't, right? A limb of it is not going to be tameh. L'meit, de lo mitame b'chadasha, that you need it to be a kazayit, it can't be mitame l'chadasha. Now notice all these things. They're all leniencies, every single one of them, right? It's not masa, it's not ke'adasha, and it's not mitame evarim. So the Gemara asks, ema l'chumra. Why wouldn't you say we learn from all these three things chumra? You could, from each one, you could learn it is tamei masa, it's mitame chadasha, right? And you could say here, let's read this. L'mai hilchata, aksha rachmana l'sheretz l'tamuya b'chadasha. You could say we learn from sheretz that it's tamei even a small lentil size. L'nida l'tamuya be'evan misama, right? A nida that it's evan misama. Aksha rachmana l'meit l'tamuya b'ohel. We could say it's like a mate that there's too much ohel. So why do we go lenient and not machmir? So the Gemara answers, tumat avodah zarah derabanan hi, v'kula b'chumra l'kula makshina l'chumra lo makshina. The whole laws of tumat avodah zarah is only midrabanan. And whenever you have a derabanan, we always say if there's an option, l'chumra l'kula, we always go l'kula. And therefore, since it's only a derabanan law, we're going to be more lenient about it. Now, by the way, this isn't always the case. Sometimes we actually say the opposite. Sometimes they say, Rabbanan asu chizuk midivrehem yoter mishal Torah. Sometimes the rabbis are worried that people wouldn't take what they say seriously, and they make more stringencies so that people take it seriously. But oftentimes we say the reverse, which is this, which is once we have the law, well, it's a rabbinic law, so we're going to be more lenient about it. Okay, moving on to the next Mishnah. Minayim l'sfina shehi te'ora. Remember, we're learning all these Mishnayot that say, how do we know this? Because it says that. So how do you know about a boat that it doesn't have tumah? So even if it's made up of a material that generally is susceptible to impurity, a boat is not going to be susceptible to impurity. Where do we learn it from? A pasuk from Mishlei. Derech oniyah belev yam. The way of a boat is to be in the middle of the water. Now we're going to read how the Gemara darshans it. The Gemara is going to explain how they darshaned it from this pasuk. So the Gemara says, Pshita oniyah belev yam. Of course, a boat is always in the middle of the sea, right? The boat doesn't usually stay docked on the side. It goes out into the middle of the sea. Hakamashmalan. So what does it come to teach you? Ki yam. It's like the yam. Ma yam tahor, asfina tahora. Just like the yam is pure and it's not susceptible to impurity, asfina tahora. We learn it out from this verse. But now we're going to see the Hananya learned it from somewhere else. Tanya. Now we're going to quote a Braita. Hananya Omer, Milmedam Misak. It's interesting. If you think about the structure, last Mishnah we brought Minayim l'Rabbi Akiva that it has Tuma like a Nida. And he brought a Pasuk. And then we immediately said, oh, by the way, there's a machloket about this. Here also we're saying there's a machloket about this. Okay, it's a bit of a different thing. It's not there's a machloket about the law. There was a machloket about the law. Here, there's a machloket about the source. So Hanani says we learn it from sak. Mas sak mitaltel maleh v'reikan, av kol mitaltel maleh v'reikan. If you remember in the pasuk, it mentions all the different materials that are tameh, and it mentions sak among them. A sak is a bag. Now, a sak can be carried empty. It can also be carried full. So therefore, we're going to learn that anything that can be carried empty and can be carried full, that's going to have tumah. But if you have things that are mentioned in the verse, like eights and matechet or things like that, metals or wood, that can't be carried either empty or full, like a boat. Imagine, right, maybe empty, but a boat, once it's full of items, you can't carry a boat. Therefore, it's not going to have that tumah. La'afu ke'sfina, to exclude a sfina, de'ena mitzatelet maleh v'reikan. You can't carry it not full, and you usually can't even carry it when it's empty. So now they say, my benai, what's the difference whether we learn it from sfina b'lev yam or we learn it from mitatel maleh v'reikan? So we're going to have a few differences. Ika benai sfina shel cheres. Okay, cheres is different. Why? Cheres is earthenware vessel. Because if you have a boat made of cheres, I don't know if they actually did that, but if you were to make a boat out of cheres, then cheres wasn't listed in the pasuk next to the sak, which means that we don't learn anything about tumah cheres from this verse. So therefore, manda amar oniyah b'lev yam, it's still an oniyah and it's still b'lev yam, hanami b'lev yamhi, which means it wouldn't be tameh. But lemanda amar kesak, hanach dichtive gabe sak. We can only learn it for those items that are mentioned next to sak in the pasuk. Di metaltelet malev v'reikan ini lo lo. Aval sfina shel cheres, but a sfina of cheres, af agav de'ena metaltelet malev v'reikan, it would still be tameh, even though it's not metaltelet malev v'reikan, because that whole drasha was only learned out from sak, and it's only things that are mentioned in the pasuk next to sak. Cheres has its own pasuk about tumah, a separate pasuk, and therefore we wouldn't learn it from here. Another nafkamina, right, which would be a difference to halacha. Inami sfinat hayarden. Okay, the Yarden is more narrow, right? People go rafting down the Yarden, right? It's different than a big sea. Lemanda mar oniyah b'lev yamhi hanami oniyah b'lev yam. You could still call this an oniyah b'lev yam. But lemanda amar mitaltelet maleh v'reikan, the boats that go, I was thinking people who go rafting, right? Theoretically, you could take a raft, fill it up with stuff. The things that you put in the Yarden are smaller type boats. And the boat that goes in there, it could be mitaltel maleh v'reikan. You could even carry it whole. How do we know this? In case you don't believe them. Ta'amar Rab Chanina ben Akavya, mipnei ma amru sfinat hayarden tme'ah, mipnei she'to'anin ota b'yavasha u'moridin ota lamayim. They fill it up on land and then they carry it down into the water. So you could actually do that, in which case it will carry tumah if you say that's the reason it doesn't. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav. Great way to end the daf and great way going into Chag Shavuot. Okay, it's perfect that this is here. Okay, really a non sequitur. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav. L'olam al yimna et atzmo mibeit hamidrash afilu sha'a achat. Sharei kama shanim nishnet mishna zo bebeit hamidrash v'lo nitgale tama ad shabar Rabbi Chanina ben Akavya u'persha. Nobody understood this Mishnah in Kalim about the Yarden and why Sfinat HaYarden has tumah. Nobody understood why until he came one day to the Beit Midrash and explained it. And for that reason, never leave the Beit Midrash even for a moment, because you never know what you might miss. Okay? Now this could be explained two ways. Number one, it's like a great day when all of a sudden someone has this big chiddush on the Beit Midrash and says something, and you want to be there at that moment and not miss out. Or you could say that if you miss it, right, we all know that when you miss class and someone fills you in, you don't always get all the details. So if you miss it, right, you might never hear that. And this was a great thing he said, and chaval to ever miss it. So you should always make sure to be in the Beit Midrash. And on that note, they end with these two drashot of the pasuk, Adam ki yamut zot Torah Adam ki yamut ba'ohel. So Amar Rabbi Yonatan la'olam al yimnat atzmo mibeit hamidrash u'midivrei Torah. Okay, this is the same as we just said, although we're going to add something to it. Ba'afilu b'shat mitah. Even at the time of your death, you should still be learning Torah, okay, or try to get to the Beit Midrash. I guess you can't always get to the Beit Midrash, but at least learn Torah on your deathbed. Shneimar zot Torah Adam ki yamut ba'ohel. You say, notice it says Torah. Torah really means law, but here they explain Torah to mean this is, right, the Torah should be even when you're dying. Very kind of beautiful image, obviously not always possible to do. Shafilu b'shat mitateo sek b'Torah. You should be learning Torah or involved in Torah even on your deathbed. Amar Rish Lakish, he explains this differently. Ein divrei Torah mitkaymin ela b'misha memit atzmo aleha. Shneimar zot Torat Adam ki yamut ba'ohel. You have to be made be'oel shel Torah. It sounds like the oel of Shem Be'ever, of Yaakov, right? He was Isham Yoshev Oalim. They say oel is oel of Torah. and you have to be meimitet atzmecha. You have to kill yourself to learn Torah. What does this mean? It means the Torah comes, as you all know, hard work. It's not simple to keep up with the daf. It's not simple to be learning, but here's the idea to leave you with Erev Shavuot about, right, the beauty of Torah is really, right, the way you acquire Torah is by investing in it and by working hard to get it. And therefore, that's the message for today. Always keep yourselves in the Beit Midrash. Find time to learn, right? Enjoy your learning tonight. And with that, Chag Shavuot Sameach.